Mr. Unnikrishnan, thanks so much for joining us. Now, the improvement in the chemical segment, did lead to better margins, but do you think that margins can sustain now at these levels?
Margins that we have been able to clock in the current quarter will certainly be sustained and possibly improved also going forward. Not substantially, but there will be an improvement in that.
Okay. You also secured orders worth about 1,700 crores in Q2. Inflows were driven by domestic orders largely. Tell us about some of the key wins and what else is in the pipeline.
Domestic market, the largest order that we have received in the quarter was for a flue gas desulfurization system for air pollution control from a power plant worth around 470 crores. We've had orders from different sectors within the country. There was also booking from cement industry for waste heat recovery based captive power plant. A fairly large one was available from one of the cement companies in the southern part of India. We've had orders coming from dairy, food processing, varied consumer-oriented industry. But larger projects were limited to the flue gas desulfurization and the captive power plant.
Right. Tell us more about the energy segment then, Mr. Unnikrishnan. What's the outlook there? What's the execution of RCF, Grasim and the JSW orders?
Dangote, last part will be revenue recognized in the current quarter. JSW will continue to be recognizing in the next 2 quarters also. We've got National Fertilizer, Gujarat and Alkalis. I mean, normally we don't talk about very specific orders. We've got 5,300 crore worth of orders available on hand. And a good part of them are to be revenue recognized in the next 12-month period. So there will be a good execution going to go through in the next 2 quarters also.
Okay. Mr. Unnikrishnan, analysts believe that it is crucial for the company to see a full-fledged revival in the private Capex cycle and a pickup in export order finalization. Give us a sense as to, what is the situation on ground with the government steps on a pickup in infra, and what more do you really think needs to be done?
See, I don't think anything further can be done by the government. What has gone wrong so far in the Indian market, specifically I'm talking about the domestic market, is consumption has come down. Could be out of the rural distress. Fundamentally, the cash in the hand of the consumer has come down. And there is also not so much of a positive enthusiasm being shown by the consumer. So once the consumption comes down, the capacity utilization in the industry will come down. Once the capacity utilization comes down, nobody will want to create new capacities. Only when you create a new capacity, capital good companies like Thermax will get benefited. So the sentiments to turn around is what we need to be taking care of. Now, government has done a lot. In the last, maybe I would say, a 3 to 4 month period of time, the slew of changes that they brought in terms of the tax rates being reduced, interest rates having come down. But none of this seems to be picking up the consumption pattern in the country. So there is a slight improvement all of us have seen in the month of October. Unless otherwise the positive sentiments do prevail in the market for a continued period of not less than maybe 6 to 7 months, you won't see the consumption going back to the original levels that prevailed in the pre, 5%, 5.5% kind of GDP growth era. Whereas you compare that with maybe 8%, 9%, 10%. I mean, everybody consumed everything. So people needed to create capacities. For that to happen, one has got to wait for some more time. And I don't blame the government for it. The government has done a lot of things. But that alone can't make the entire consumer segment change, sentiments changing in the country. And possibly government can go ahead with a lot of mega projects, which they have announced that they'll be having $1 trillion worth of projects to be taken up by the government in the current 5-year period of time. But that remained there on the announcement level. Further working it out in details as to whether it is maybe a new 100 railway stations, another 100 airports to be created, bullet train to be not only for one segment, multiple areas to be introducing there, ports to be built, and rural electrification, rural roads, water supply system. I mean, a slew of things are already known to the government to be started, but that cannot be remaining at the announcement level. It has got to go down to the level of tendering, placement of orders, and once that is done, there will be a demand pickup going to be happening in the country. And that's going to be taking some time.
Right. And, Mr. Unnikrishnan, your export order inflow has suffered from lack of order finalization. Given the pickup in the export market now is fairly vital for the next leg of growth for the company, can you share with us some sort of an outlook here?
The inquiry levels are fairly good in the international market. Only thing, the order finalization in the market that we operate, that's Middle East, Southeast Asia, South America, Africa, these markets also are slowing down, and I'm not seeing a recovery in that market to happen at a faster pace. So possibly it will follow the same pattern as India. So one has got to be content with the selective orders going to get concluded, where we need to be very aggressive in pricing. And that's something which we are already doing to ensure our costs are under control and our execution is at the peak in terms of capabilities. Combination of both should be helping us to a certain extent. But the main challenge that I'm worried about going forward is the trade war between China and America at almost a peak level, they're unable to settle it out at this point of time. There are capacities idling in China. And once those are idling in China, they don't mind to pick an order at any kind of a price from anywhere in the world in available markets. So our Chinese competition in the global market, not for Thermax alone, for the entire Indian organization or even European companies are going to be hotting up. So in that kind of a scenario, picking orders is not a problem. To maintain margins, one has got to be a lot more careful. So I'm expecting that the international markets also will start improving going forward, but one has to give time for it.
Now, you've also mentioned that there have been inquiries across sectors, but the conclusion remains challenging and that you even may end FY20 with a flattish order inflow growth. So where do you see your overall order book?
I am expecting a conclusion of orders for the Barmer refinery and the Gujarat refinery and the Panipat refinery going forward. So the refinery sector, which is not prevalent for the past maybe few years, I'm expecting it to be opening up. I would see a lot more of consumer-oriented industries in anticipation of the consumption improvement in the 21-22 year. We'll start finalizing orders going forward because whatever said and done, after placement of an order, for a factory to be constructed, even in the food sector or FMCG sector, would take not less than maybe 16 to 18 months for commissioning of the factory. So if somebody were to create capacity for FY21-22, they have to place orders immediately. And things are going to be reversing in India. So I'm expecting that there will be a revival in the FMCG sector, pharma sector, and I'm looking forward to all of them picking up in the coming quarters. But the big ticket items like maybe steel industry, fertilizer industry, power industry, I'm not expecting anything to be happening in the immediate future, which can certainly make a major difference. Please remember, in the consumer-oriented sector, the sizes of projects are not so large. I mean, you would find the entire ticket size of a project is maybe less than 1,000 crore. And orders for companies like mine will be limited to maybe 2 crores, 5 crores, or a 10 crore. But whereas when you talk about a steel industry, a single order could be as high as 500 crores. So those kind of projects are not going to be there for some more time to happen.
Sure. All right. Danstoker made an operational profit in Q2, marking a turnaround, but reported a PAT loss due to one-off payments. So can we see profits in the second half? What's the update there?
Second half, they'll be profitable, but after absorbing the loss of the first half, they'll be break-even plus is my expectation. But going forward with the kind of improvement that we've been able to bring into the operational efficiency, the company will be profitable next year, certainly.
All right. Thanks for joining us then, Mr. Unnikrishnan, today and taking us through the latest there at Thermax.